General Shukla, I want to begin by asking you, sir, is Chinese President Xi Jinping staying away perhaps to rain on India's parade, and is the impact perhaps going to be just the opposite?
Gaurav, I think you began by saying that China could be sulking. So if China is sulking, let it sulk. India's weight and influence today has aggregated so greatly that it cannot be snubbed. India is no longer that wallflower which, dinosaurs would not ask for a dance. It is our moment. We matter in the world by so many metrics. I mean, we all know that now fifth largest economy could become the third. The wonderful work we've done on DPI, the new normals in our strategic outlook, the way we are on top of terror, 141 crores, a market and very youthful demographics. So there is much that is in India's favor. Concurrently, I mean, while I would say that we must be cautious with the Chinese, never underestimate them, but they do seem to be having some worries. And their worries go beyond the economy. There has been a lot of focus on the economy, but my sense is that Xi has got deeper worries beyond the economy. So in a moment, we could get to his domestic worries. And the two, it is my sense, is that I think Xi has gone loud and proud premature.
I'm just about to come to that point. There's a very pertinent point you raise, that it's not just the Chinese economy. There are bigger fish that Xi has to fry at home, and he's facing serious headwinds there perhaps, and I'll just come to that point. Professor Kundapalli, what do you make of President Xi Jinping staying away from the G20 summit? Is he sulking because India is rising, or is he facing serious trouble at home?
I think all of those factors, but I think the domestic economy is not doing well in China. 21% unemployment, some say 46%. The real estate is crashing, and you have also the aging of the society, and bad debts. Economic growth rates are plummeting. Last year it was 3.3%, and this year they expect that to be 5.5, but nowhere near in the last 6 months. So economic issues have been main concern for Xi Jinping, number one. Number two is, as you mentioned, of course, the India rise is one of the features that China is factoring in terms of Xi Jinping's visit to New Delhi, no visit to New Delhi. And this is partly, as General Shukla mentioned, there are the positive points that India is flagging in the recent times. FDI, technology, middle class, rising middle class, exports have risen. Fifth largest economy to third largest economy status. All these also are part of this. And last time Xi Jinping visited India in September 2014, they mentioned about $20 billion investment in India, okay, and a developmental partnership, but nothing of that has happened. And so in a decade later, Xi Jinping has to show something. But I think there is also the anti-China feeling in India. Public opinion polls have indicated. So KIKIR, the China Institutes for Contemporary International Relations, which is a major think tank in China, which advises the Foreign Affairs Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, they have mentioned that there is a lot of anti-China feeling across the globe. Over 60% of the people have negative feelings towards China as part of the COVID pandemic. And so this is not an opportune moment for Xi Jinping.
It's all Xi's doing as far as India is concerned. The Chinese transgressions along the line of actual control, refusal to pull back despite commitments. General Shukla, China's reported to have sought some concessions on the LAC standoff to get President Xi Jinping to participate in G20. Is China completely failing to scrutinize India, failing to read both the Indian mind and the Indian resolve?
I mean, you see, whatever happened initially in Galwan If you take the events thereafter, the operational rebalancing that the Indian Army did, it is a very major event. I mean, not only in terms of troops, but in terms of moving mechanized reserves, the infrastructure that has come up, the modernization subsequently through the emergency powers. It is not my belief. It is my belief that the Chinese, along the LAC, take India very seriously. The man-to-man signaling, the platoon-to-platoon signaling is very different. We have balanced, we are resolute. Kailash was an indication. So I don't think they are misreading our resolve around the LAC. They are just being difficult as part of a larger power play. And we could come to that later. What I would caution is that, with China, its moves on the diplomatic platform do not quite reflect strategic intent. That could be very deceptive. Prime Minister Modi and President Xi met 18 times.
Yes.
That did not transmute into, peace and tranquility along the LAC. If we go back 1987 or 88, I think Rajiv Gandhi visits China. Yes. We have those series of agreements, confidence building, peace and tranquility. And while both the nations are focused on peace along the LAC, as part of this huge charade, China creates this whole infrastructure in the depth areas in terms of troops, infrastructure, airfields, technology, and that led to Galwan. So I would caution against reading too deeply into the diplomatic moves that China makes. They always do not connect realistically to what is happening in, shall I say, operational theaters. Okay. That is something we must always be watchful and be on the guard, guard against.
Professor Kodapalli, Xi Jinping went to Johannesburg for the BRICS summit, but he's not coming for G20. Is this a message to India, or is this a wider message that Xi Jinping views the G20 as a pro-West body, and the BRICS, he wants to model BRICS, Russia and China perhaps together as an anti-West bloc? Is that the thinking in Beijing?
This is one factor, I think, because Bali summit resulted in 2:18, Russia, China versus 18 other in the G20. If Putin is not visiting Delhi and if Xi Jinping attends the Delhi meeting, then China would have been very isolated among the other 18 members. So this is one other consideration. You mentioned about BRICS and G20. I think one of the crucial things that Xi Jinping is avoiding New Delhi is if African Union is made the member of the G20, as is very likely on September 9th, then the mantle of the global South seems to be shifting towards India rather than what the Chinese are expecting the global South leadership to be in their hands. So this is big, shocking news for China because African Union has about 55 members. That constitutes nearly roughly about 40% of the global South. And so this would be bad news for China. China never raised the membership of the African Union or CELAC, the South American multilateral organization, or other multilateral institutions of the global South. So this would be problematic for China.